Welcome to the Critical Angle. This is Rick Beckett, and I am with Adam Graham, the legendary Adam Graham. How you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
Good. So, where are you calling from? Where are we seeing you? Where are we seeing this video from?
Home in Texas, in the
Texas.
Dallas-Fort Worth area. Just moved there this summer. So
That's awesome. And where'd you move from?
Las Vegas.
Okay. All right. Very cool. And so you have, I think when I think about you, I think of, just like a rich history of career. Like I see you've done a lot of cool things. Can you tell me a little bit about what your career path has been like?
Well, of course, I naturally came into the diamond and jewelry business because I was a fishing guide and ran fly-in fishing resorts in British Columbia. So naturally, my transition into
that's a normal connection.
So yeah, so grew up in the middle of nowhere on the central coast of British Columbia. My dad was a logging contractor, so I grew up in little logging camps and moved to the big city of about 2,500 to go to high school. And and I started guiding when I was 11 years old. Did that every summer. Started my own business called College Bound Charters. And so actually paid for my way through school, the whole thing. So I graduated from just guiding to managing some of the lodges I was guiding for, and thought that might be an interesting career path. So I ended up going again naturally from the middle of nowhere to the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, of course, right?
Wow.
Which happened to be the best hospitality / hotel school in the world. So, and of course, those were the great times when Tark the Shark was the coach and national championships in basketball and the whole. So it was a great time to actually go to school there.
Wow.
Yep. And then so graduating college, and I actually stayed in that business. And so I'd spend my summers in Canada, running the lodges and guiding, and then in the winters I'd spend on the road in Southern California, Oregon, Washington, doing all the outdoor shows and selling trips to this fly-in lodge, and so I was living the life. It was great to be single. And then I taught this super hot California girl how to two-step in a country bar in Anaheim one year, and so we got married shortly thereafter, and moved back to civilization to get a real job. And so we actually moved back to Las Vegas. I was thinking, I'll just get a job at one of the big hotel casinos. I've got the degree, everything kind of falls into that. And then one day I answered a newspaper, back when there were newspapers, a newspaper ad for a director of.
I remember those things.
That's right. Director of marketing and public relations for a trade association. I thought, well, that sounds kind of interesting. Well, the trade association ended up being the American Gems Society. And I remember, I think what got me the job, I was interviewing with the executive director, and he asked me, what is your perspective on stress in the workplace? And I said, well, for me, that's not, a magazine that's 2 days, has to be printed in 2 days. It's walking around, a corner of a river and there's a grizzly bear. That's stress to me. So I think that was the thing that got me the job. And so really zero learning curve, right into the fire with AGS. The AGS lab had just started, as the marketing director for both and public relations. So had a really good run there, running conclaves and doing all that sort of fun stuff. And
can you tell me what it was like marketing a new lab?
It was a challenge because basically, AGS was really kind of establishing this niche on cut grade, that being the key difference between them and anyone else. And of course, the strict standards of AGS and all that coming into play. And so putting the focus on cut was really important. And, at that time, there were some companies, Lazar Kaplan and some of the others, who were really starting to focus on Hearts on Fire, really starting to focus in on that and kind of wrapping their arms around that as being a key component to, what their product was. And so we got some amazing support at the lab from companies like that who were really taking that cut grade thing seriously. So, but again, it's just kind of like, how do you advertise something like that and catch people's attention when it's a pretty technical thing? So I think one of the better things that we think we did was we bought a chocolate Labrador Retriever puppy and introduced everybody to the AGS lab. And so, of course,
That's
talking about loyalty, talking about, all these fun things that go along with dogs. And of course, with marketing babies and dogs, you put those in ads and all sorts of good things happen. So we had
that's
an
so
AGS
funny.
lab with a collar with a diamond hanging off of it, and talking about him growing as the lab was growing, and all these kind of things. So, again, just trying to take a different angle. And when you've got 500 diamond ads in Rapaport magazine, but none of them have a dog in it, guess which one has a dog?
Right.
Guess which one people
I
react
mean,
to. So
do you remember Spud McKenzie? Or
Of
wasn't
course.
there a dog named, wasn't there a beer dog named Spud
absolutely,
or something like that?
yep, for sure.
Yeah. And then you got Target,
Target. For sure.
I mean, yeah, it's a smart move.
Yep.
That's
So,
cool.
yeah, and so and during that time, the lab took off. AGS went through a real kind of growth period at that time. Ruth was our accountant. Yancey Weinrich, of course, has gone on to big things in the trade show business. She was our membership director. Jay Lell was our education guy. So we just had an amazing team that just really pushed it through, and it culminated for me with the conclave in Vancouver. So I took it home, and we had an amazing turnout at that. And at that point in time, De Beers was not allowed in the United States because of monopoly issues and that sort of thing. So you remember it used to be an arm of J. Walter Thompson, the Diamond, whatever it was, the promotion service, DPS, right? And so
Right.
our coup for that was actually getting the De Beers crew over there and Nikki Oppenheimer delivering a keynote address at Conclave. So,
And that's why it was in Vancouver?
yeah. Well, it wasn't
Wow.
why it was in Vancouver, but because it was in Vancouver, we were able to get
It opened up the opportunity.
Yeah, all the De Beers folks came over, and we did it in 2 hotels, but the Hotel Vancouver, that iconic kind of copper roof, old school hotel downtown, and it just that we had some amazing speakers that year. One was the Eric Weinmeier, who was the blind guy who climbed Everest that year.
Unbelievable.
And at the end of his talk, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. And I think that conclave is still, for the biggest attendance and most profitable one ever. I think we actually made too much money. The board was kind of mad at us because we were only supposed to make.
That's a good problem to have, though.
It was a good, plus the Canadian exchange rate was awesome. It was like 64 cents. So everything it was a perfect storm from there. And then but basically at that conclave, I got recruited out of there to run all the U.S. operations for Rapaport. To become their vice president for the U.S., which seemed like an amazing challenge for me, and it turned out to be an amazing challenge. And working with Mr. Rapaport and all the things that come his way, and kind of going deep dive on some of those businesses and opportunities that were always coming his way. So so that was kind of a.
How long were you with that company for?
With Rapaport a couple of years, and then. We were still in Vegas. We actually moved the business of Rapaport from New York to Las Vegas for tax reasons, for a lot of other logistical reasons, customer service, of course. I mean,
are they still based out of Vegas? I always thought they were out of New York.
Yep. So,
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the business itself is actually headquartered in Las Vegas. That's we built the office there. We print the magazines there. We did all that. We kind of moved all of that into Las Vegas, where it's just much easier to do business for a lot of different reasons. But yeah, it's awesome. And, again, just kind of, the thing about him is just kind of how he thinks and how he looks at things. You should get him on this podcast.
I'd love to. What a disruptor. I mean, for starters, absolutely. Like he's like the king of disruption.
For sure. But it's, he just thinks differently than a lot of people. He's always thinking 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead. So by the time we actually get there or close to there, he's already been there and moved on to the next thing. So, just a really intelligent guy, really has an amazing grasp on the industry and what's going on in the world. And it was really, from what I've seen and know of him, devoting more time to, helping, things get better at source countries and some of those sort of things. So, so it's that was a great opportunity. And at that time, Vegas was.
Did you? Oh, sorry, you lived in Vegas at the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so you could work from Vegas. That's great. Yeah.
So that worked out great. And then Vegas was still booming at that time, so I had an opportunity to buy a piece of oceanfront property in the Queen Charlotte Islands, which is way up the northern end of British Columbia, 60 miles offshore, right on the Alaska border. And I actually built a fishing lodge from scratch. It was me and like 2 or 3 of the native carpenters up there, and got that done, and did that for a couple years until baby number 3 decided to show up, and so back to civilization we came. We'd built a winter place down by Phoenix, and so poked around there a little bit to see what I might get myself into after selling the lodge. And Saks Fifth Avenue actually had an opportunity to have me come in and kind of do a build out of this new jewelry store within a store concept. And so I had a great run there for a year, brought in a lot of brands we liked, really kicked butt and right in retail, and had a great experience there. But as you know, retail hours, are not great when you've got a family and all that sort of stuff. So I started just kind of looking around, and the opportunity to be the director of marketing and education for the American Gem Trade Association with Doug Hucker in Dallas came up.
Is he still doing that?
He just resigned earlier this year. So there's a new CEO, John Ford, that's there.
Okay. Yeah. He's from did he do,
he was the Opal guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think he does Lightning Ridge or something like that, or
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah. So he's moved into that role. And, but yeah, so then we were in Dallas for 5 years doing all that, the spectrum design competition, had some really cool success there, and bringing, getting celebrities involved to model the jewelry, and, getting our images up in Times Square, and a lot of really cool things along with that. Plus the annual success of the Tucson Gem Show, which is always kind of a fun thing. And color is so interesting just as a category, and seeing what's going on, especially Tucson. That's where, if there's a
for people that don't know, what would you expect to see going to that festival for the first time, or going to that show, excuse me?
Yeah. I mean, the AGTA show tends to be, in the convention center. It tends to be the higher end of what's happening in Tucson. But at that time of year, you have probably 30 different shows going on. It's everything from guys out there with 50-gallon drums, full of rough material of all sorts, to dinosaur skeletons, to, just all sorts of amazing things.
Is it the largest show in the world? Or
I wouldn't think so, but
okay.
It's
you probably have
certainly an interesting show for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure there's some countries that have, larger ones, but I've heard it's up there.
It may be. Yeah, it may be. But it's hard to tell because everything's so spread around. It's all these, it's from the convention center to these big tents to, motels that rent out each room, and each room is basically a booth with whatever that particular person is offering for their wares. So it's just a kick to walk around Tucson at that time and just see what's.
That's a fun experience.
Oh, for sure. No, absolutely. Yeah. So then we were in Dallas, and then my wife was from California, and was kind of getting a little homesick, and wanted to move back to the West Coast. And an opportunity came along for me to be the CEO for Erica Courtney, big kind of colored gemstone designer to the stars, beautiful, intricate, amazing jewelry. Came in there, and she was in West LA. So we lived in Huntington Beach at that time. Just amazing things. Again, dressing a lot of celebrities, working with retailers, doing a lot of, events in store, and with Erica, she's just an amazing person to put in front of a client and do cool things with the jewelry, a lot of custom work and that sort of thing as well.
Yeah. She's a designer who can sell jewelry.
Yes.
And I've noticed not every designer can, and that's totally cool. Some are just super good at designing and don't really want interaction with people. But then you have designers who can not only design, but sell on top of it. And then it's game over. And I think she's one of those
absolutely
type of personalities that can do that.
Yeah. You've heard the saying, could sell ice to Eskimos, and Erica's definitely that way.
That's very helpful.
Yeah. And then, so from there, we had a great show. We actually established a loose gemstone selling company for her that represented a gemstone called Zarite, which is, found in one mine in the world in Turkey. And it's basically this cool color change, really earthy green, orange.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, pretty cool. And it's got a lot of really neat characteristics, but it's kind of super rare. She used a lot of it herself, and to a lot of success. And so we just kind of took that on, and so I ended up doing shows in Hong Kong and Germany and different places with that gemstone just to kind of get it out.
Oh, wow.
Too. So so it was that. So that was an interesting run as well. Ended up moving on, going to our friends over there at Omi Gems, Omi Privé with Navit and Omi. Again, fantastic people, fantastic product. Just putting it in with friends, and again, that was a place that I kind of figured I would be at for a long time, just because it's so enjoyable, and working for people who you respect and like, and just kind of let you do your thing. And so that was really positive. And then a friend of ours, Glenn Douglas, who you know from all your years involved with Precision Set, he came calling, and I'd known Glenn for 20, 25 years. And he came along and said, we'd like you to come and work for Joshua J. And I said, I'm happy where I'm at. But he was awfully persistent, and he just came back week after week after week, and finally made me an offer I couldn't refuse. So I didn't.
That's awesome.
And so I've been with Joshua J going on about 5 years now. Amazing company. It's all the right things that I like to do, with an amazing amount of support. We've got, product that nobody else has available for calls from retailers all the time. Most of the time you'll have it next day. And amazing kind of private label, bands, bridal, fashion, key core fashion, bread and butter pieces, things like that. So and
a lot of big pieces.
Oh, absolutely.
From what I can tell, mostly bigger pieces. It seems like over 2-3 carats in terms of diamonds and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I say, it's there's not many companies in the industry that have the finished inventory of higher end items that we do. We have diamonds up to 30 carats. And it's not just one; it's like several. I had a call for, I think, a 7-carat radiant last week, and the guy had been searching a long time, and he'd found one, and he goes, Adam, can you look and tell me what you have? Do you have one? Well, we had 7 in rings, and we had 3 additional loose. So that
holy smokes!
It just kind of gives you an idea, kind of what the resource we have inventory wise that's available for our retailers that we work with. So it's a great.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Do you like this as much as selling color? Because it sounds like you were in the color lane for a long time. Is it weird going over to diamonds, or is it different?
It is different. I think people can look at it a little differently, although, there's some people who are as passionate about diamonds as they are about color. But again, even with us, we're doing colored diamonds, a lot of yellows, pinks, that's really cool. And we tend to sell the classics too in ruby, emerald, sapphire. We'll venture into some paribas and some things as well, just to have a little fun with it. But for me, it's just kind of fun being involved in that really super high end, those 5, 10, 15 carat diamonds, which, are really, we like to say they're super rare, but it's, when we've got several of them, you call me up for a 10 carat emerald cut, and we probably have 10 of them, ready to go. And so from that standpoint, it's a great place for me to be when you're actually trying. I don't look at it as selling to people. I look at it as helping people, and I've always kind of I've always had that approach, whether it was with AGS helping our retailers, or AGTA helping our wholesalers and our retail members. So I've always kind of taken that approach to the business, and it's like, how can I help you be more successful? Well, with what I have kind of at my back, with the inventory that I have, with the quality of products that I have, I can help you, and that's the thing, and it's one call. I should be your first call and all this sort of stuff, just because I know we've got it. I know the jewelry's great. And, again, you'll probably have it next day if it's something you need. So from that standpoint, with my kind of personality and approach to selling, with helping people, then, I couldn't be at a better place just from the resources that I have.
Now, tell me a little bit about your family life. So you went, how long, is it 5 years ago that you moved from Las Vegas to Texas?
No, just actually moved back here this summer. So, so I've got 3 kids that I know of. My my oldest son, Jake, is 21. He's a senior at the University of Puget Sound up by Seattle. He was an excellent football player, and that certainly helped, pay his way through college and do all those sort of great things.
That's nice.
All conference linebacker at Huntington Beach High School and an Eagle Scout. I mean, super proud of that kid, and he loves it. He wants his career goals to be a wildlife biologist, marine biologist, something along those lines. So, and that was a perfect school.
Motivated.
Yeah, absolutely. And then my daughter just graduated high school. Ended up with a full ride academic scholarship to University of Nevada, Las Vegas Honors College. So following in her father's footsteps at UNLV. So she's having She's having a blast so far, doing everything that she can and participating in everything. And then our youngest son is a high school sophomore. As a freshman last year in Las Vegas, played both football and baseball. Was a defensive MVP on the football team, and he plays catcher on the baseball team, so loves being in the middle of it. And part of our decision moving back to Dallas was just kind of, giving him a better opportunity at better academic schools, better athletic opportunities. So we did, basically move back close to where we were when we lived here before with AGTA, but found a great high school here that was looking for a catcher, and Nick wanted to focus in on baseball. And so we found a great spot for him. Amazing, Texas, amazing facilities. There aren't many colleges that have what this high school has here. And so just kind of positioning him for his last 3 years of high school and kind of, getting that opportunity to make his dreams come true, and whatever he wants to do, then he can do it. So, the things you do for your kids, right?
And then you're going to have an empty nest.
Yes.
What's that going to be like? Is that going to be weird?
It'll be totally weird. Yeah, totally weird. So, but for me here, Dallas is a good central location for me to kind of work my territory. Direct flights, out of here to any of my store locations.
Yeah, it's perfect.
So it works out well as far as a hub for me to operate from.
Yeah. Well, that's so neat. I have so much respect for you. I think parenting is so dang hard. I have 3 kids right now. And I have one 13, one 9, and one who's 7. And man, it's just, you're in the thick of it for quite some time. You don't have a life, and then you're trying to get your kids, make sure that they're respectful and kind and hardworking and all these types of things. And it's tough. So I hats off to you.
It is tough, but it's also rewarding. I mean, and I think if there's any kind of advice that I would give on that side, it's keep your kids busy. Like I said, our oldest son, it was sports and it was scouts, and he also played the trumpet until he got to high school, where he had to kind of pick sports over music and pick sports, and it was a good thing. Our daughter was involved with band. I think she plays like 5 different instruments, and she was involved in a lot of things, and started working at Domino's and doing that. She still does that as a manager now, and she's 18. So she's
wow.
And now she's involved with sororities. She's involved with she wants to go study law, so she's involved in the legal fraternity. So I think it's just kind of keeping him busy. And then with Nick, it's been sports, it's been baseball, football. He and I do a lot of, all the kids actually will go fishing, and we do a lot of duck hunting together.
Do you fly fish or spin fish? I was going to ask you that earlier.
I do both.
Both, okay.
I personally enjoy fly fishing now that I'm just kind of doing it on my own or with the kids. So, if I'm doing a trip up through Montana, Wyoming, I'll take the boys with me, throw the fly rods in the back, and just kind of make a busman's holiday out of it. And we'll go from Jackson Hole, and we'll drive up through Yellowstone.
Oh, wow.
Fish the Gibbon, fish the Madison, just kind of, all those great blue ribbon rivers for trout, and just to have a blast, So again, it's keeping them out of just kind of idleness.
Yeah, because then you're online, sitting online, and who knows what you're doing, with that idle time.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, kind of pivoting a little bit, what is your approach to our current economy? I mean, how are things selling for you guys? Are things still selling? Are you nervous? Where are you guys at, and where are you at in terms of kind of the temperature for yourself?
Well, I think we're lucky in kind of operating in the space we're in. I think our core clients for our bigger pieces aren't concerned about the price of gasoline, aren't concerned about how much a loaf of bread is or how much, their school lunches have gone up or that sort of thing. And again, I'm not downplaying all of that, but I'm thinking, the people who are, buying those bigger pieces, that's not a concern. Now, certainly if, they own a bunch of stock and the stock market's tanking, then that might make them, a little hesitant. But I think, looking back over those last few years and the pandemic and everything that kind of happened there, where our biggest competitor in the jewelry industry is travel, right? Luxury travel. And that just came to a complete stop. And, so we obviously saw a big increase in the way jewelry sold. And I think it's kind of, all of us have kind of been expecting that amazing year that was last year with jewelry to as we came into 2022 to kind of drop off now that kind of travel was opening again and people had choices and did whatever. My personal theory on it, though, is that people, when they bought jewelry last year, probably had amazing responses from those that they bought jewelry. Right? And so,
come to think of it, I have seen some repeat customers lately. So that
right. So
yes.
I think that may have had something to do with it, where it's like, oh, okay, this is not a bad option when it comes to an anniversary present. Instead of taking my wife to Paris, if I buy her a beautiful diamond line bracelet or whatever, this had some unexpectedly good results. I'm going to do that again next year. So I think what's happened, like for us, last year was insanely good. This year's insanely good, plus about 25 or 30%. And it's just kind of, and so for me, it's just kind of riding the wave, answering calls, making sure that people have the product they have to put in front of their clients to make those sales happen. And because they're still coming in, they're still doing it. So I think where, people tend to be nervous or kind of down in the lower end, kind of middle end, where, more of those inflationary items are in fact, affecting income and affecting, disposable income for people. I think that has a bigger impact. But on the high end, it's, we haven't seen any slowdown. And in fact, we've seen a speed up in a lot of things. So, from our standpoint, and again, a lot of credit to Josh, is that during all of this, because of the inventory we had, where a lot of people were super conservative about what inventory they have or buying, during this pandemic, Josh kept on, just kind of keeping up with his business model, investing in product, investing in inventory. And so when a lot of, the dealers got to a point where they just didn't have much in inventory or, had very little to actually sell when you guys came calling, we were in a position where we had it. And so we had a lot of new clients last year just from the fact that they couldn't get it anywhere else but from us. And so, and that, again, that's kind of helped this year too, just kind of that carryover. People are like, oh, we can call Adam. He's got all this stuff. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So maybe I've moved
also,
up.
I would say from something I've noticed too, Adam, is like friction is like really important because lack of friction, because when a retail store is humming and the salespeople are making sale after sale after sale, not only that, it's a special order and I got to call Mrs. So-and-so and I got so-and-so just came in, and there's all these things going on for a busy, retail store. The ability to call someone like yourself and have the inventory right there and be there in 24 hours, that kind of help is needed when the stores are already overfilling with customers. I guess it compounds, and it also shows you how necessary it is to do what you're doing, to have that availability and to be able to deliver. It's so helpful for just the everyday salesperson.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's, again, and it's not just that we have it too, but we're super responsive. So it kind of goes back to my days at Rapaport, when one of the reasons we actually moved the business out of New York, other than tax reasons and other things, is you couldn't hire anybody there to be nice on the phone. It's like, just answer the phone nicely. You couldn't do it, but in Las Vegas you can. I mean, and so that we have this.
Well, Las Vegas, you're going to have the best
everywhere. Absolutely. It was awesome.
That's the thing, because they know how to, and I've hired people from Las Vegas and had them work in my store. Not only are they singing opera, but they're the nicest to every customer, and the level of customer service is just like 20% higher than everywhere else, I think.
Absolutely. And so that really carries over to, us, and we're based West Coast, Los Angeles. So it's just, but again, it's, my personal thing is that I'm going to answer you as soon as you send me something, and just so you know that I'm responding and I'm back to you and we'll get it to you. And so, because if you're calling me asking about something, you've got an urgent, opportunity, you need something, we're going to get back to you right away, which isn't necessarily the case with a lot of vendors out there, but and so that's a real key component of our success as well, I think, is this dedication to taking all those objections out of your way, helping you make the sale with an item that, fits what you're looking for perfectly. And there's a lot of instances where, we'll custom make something just to meet the demands, because you're saying, hey, this is a great client. We know they're going to buy. Can you put this together for us? And boom, Josh will, jump through every hoop to try and get something cranked out and over to you to make sure that you have that opportunity. So, and so from that standpoint, it's not just that we've got a great inventory. There's some people out there with great inventories that are just a pain in the butt to do business with. And with our philosophy as a company, it's just, we want to make it easy. We want to make it happen, and whatever we can do to make that happen, that's what we're going to focus in on and do. So.
Well, you can definitely tell that is a focus. So great job on that. Just kind of in closing here, what are you predicting for the future? Do you have any predictions going forward? And, in your little crystal ball there, what are you thinking going forward for the jewelry industry? Are you feeling good about life?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the eternal optimist, and it's, we can all have predictions about the way things are going. Certainly my expectations for this year blown away. And again, maybe it's something that happened over these past couple of years that has strengthened, the opportunity for jewelry, especially the high-end jewelry, for those people that kind of get back involved with it. Watches have been super hot. So a lot of guys collecting watches.
What's up with watches?
Right? Amazing.
5 years ago, 7 years ago, every single person would walk into my store and make a smug remark that there will be no watches in the future. And I would say, why are you saying that to me? I'm selling these as my livelihood for starters. Yes. At least say it behind my back. I'm kidding. But what a flip. Now you have, and I think it was on maybe Rapaport yesterday, or Bloomberg said that basically the younger generations are are blowing up the pre-owned Rolex watch market. I mean, they're loving it. So what's up with that?
It is. It's amazing how that has become a thing. And obviously spurred on by Rolex, but for those people who can't afford Rolex or doing whatever, you see that kind of trickle down to brands like Tudor, and Omega is kind of done the Phoenix thing and risen from the ashes, but also brands like Cartier and Panerai, and the stores that really have a nice watch selection. There aren't many slow brands, they're selling, and they're selling at all different levels, because again, it's a thing, and people are kind of, I don't know if they, obviously there's a bunch of them that like the smartwatches and wear them all the time, but just regular, I wouldn't say regular, but nicer, finer timepieces are just super hot. So, which is great. The nice thing is that it brings the guys into the stores. And maybe they feel a little guilty spending all that money on themselves, and they'll buy a nice piece of jewelry for their wife or their girlfriend.
That's definitely true.
Which is a nice part of dealing with the service issues that we all deal with watches, right? So it's like lessens the pain a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's great to get them in the store. So again, I feel good about kind of the momentum that's been built in jewelry, especially kind of in the categories that we have. I think it's been really positive. There really hasn't been any kind of news, knock on wood, come out about the industry and people doing weird things. Although kind of, you're maybe getting a little bit of that with lab grown and some confusion on that side of things. But I think even on that side of things, there's really a distinction and clarification. I think people are doing that kind of, figuring it out on themselves. There's enough education. I think people, for the most part, are disclosing the lab growns and what the value is and all that sort of stuff. And jewelry stores are kind of taking, 3 different approaches to that, where it's one, no, you can't buy it from us. We don't find jewelry. And so, it's that's just not something we're comfortable selling you and working with you on in the future. Second approach is, well, we don't sell it, but we can get them for you on a case-by-case basis, and you're a client, and I'm happy to help you do that and all that sort of stuff. And then third is kind of a fully embracing, put it out in the cases. It's all about, having that option and opportunity for their clients, and kind of taking that opportunity to explain the difference between natural and the lab-grown thing. So I think that's going to be an interesting kind of thing to watch and how that actually developed. But I think, with that real distinction in pricing now, I think that makes the distinction a little bit clearer in value and along those lines. So I think that's something to kind of watch. But again, I'm optimistic. I'm going to keep riding this wave as long as we keep riding it and keep working with our retailers and trying to help them do what they're going to do. But again, it just seems like a great time to be in the jewelry business, and you'll get a little bit of unsettlement maybe here with election year and seeing what happens in the next month. But generally speaking, the election, if you look at the data, the election years don't tend to impact it as much as people kind of think it might. And it'll, again, just kind of, it'll do what it'll do. The government will do what it'll do. Doesn't seem to matter who's in charge. It just seems like, we want that confidence in that higher end buyer. And I think they're more confident about buying jewelry and watches than they've ever been. So it's a great place to be.
Yeah. Well, hey, that's a good place to wrap this up. I want to say thank you so much for taking the time. I'm hoping to have you on again and dig deep into some other issues, but it's nice to get to know you. You're a legend. Your career is amazing, and keep selling those diamonds.
We'll do our best. Thanks, Rick.
All right. Take care.